Hello, welcome to today's webinar. It's sponsored by the U.S. Department of Energy's Water Power Technologies Office and the three national laboratories, Pacific Northwest, the Indian National Laboratories, and the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. Today's webinar focuses on the newest addition to the Primer system. Primer, the portal and repository for information on marine renewable energy, brings together data and information systems about all aspects of marine renewable energy, including device testing, energy resource characterization, environmental effects, and more. Today we're introducing Tethys Engineering, the newest hub that brings to functionality of Tethys for environmental information to provide access to a curated set of papers, reports, and other information on Tethys Engineering. So what you can see right here is the Primer universe, is what we like to call it. And the central landing page is the Primer Portal, which you just saw some information on the previous slide. And today we're focusing on the newest knowledge hub, Tethys Engineering. Today's webinar will be presented by Jonathan Whiting of Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. Jonathan is an environmental engineer who leads the efforts on Tethys and Tethys.
All right. Well, thank you, Kelly. So today we're going to walk through actually a slide deck, as it'll be a little easier to point out features, but we'll make the slides look very similar to an actual walkthrough on the site. As of a few days ago, the website is now live at the following URL, and I would encourage you all to go to this URL and follow along and explore while we walk through it together. The site is still undergoing a few minor changes, so consider this to be a beta release. This is the first public showing of the website, so that's very exciting. And any feedback regarding the site functionality or content is encouraged. Tethys Engineering is a knowledge base for documents related to the technical and engineering aspects of marine renewable energy. The website is designed after Tethys, which contains information about the environmental effects of MRE and wind energy. Tethys was built almost a decade ago and has been well received by the international MRE community. Here you can see the Tethys Engineering homepage. The layout is very similar to Tethys, but with orange colors instead of blue. And in building Tethys Engineering, we emulated Tethys in many places, taking advantage of a platform that we've refined over almost a decade. The four panels in the middle represent the main technology areas represented in the site. So we have current, wave, ocean thermal energy conversion, and salinity. The banner photo along the top rotates every 24 hours among several marine seascape images. And on the right column, we have some quick links for new users. If you click New User or the Register up in the header, it will allow you to create an account for the site. Below those buttons to the right is a mini calendar interface for marine renewable energy events and a description of the linkages with Tethys and Primer. Tethys Engineering was built using Drupal 8, which is a web platform or web framework, and is being co-developed while we also upgrade Tethys to Drupal 8. So look for that in the future. The website is mobile friendly, although that still needs some polishing. So we're going to go over here. This is to the knowledge base. This is the primary view in Tethys Engineering, listing any relevant documents that we've found. The MRE industry is relatively new and information tends to be rather dispersed. So creating an organized and searchable database aids developers, it focuses research, and it supports regulator decisions. Overall, the goal is to promote the development of the MRE industry. Now, Tethys Engineering already has over 2,700 documents, each of them hand-selected and tagged by our content team. We hand-select content because it yields better relevance and better tagging than automated approaches. By contrast, Tethys has almost 2,400 MRE documents after 8 years of collection. So we've already surpassed that number, and content is really being added quicker than ever before. It helps that there's a larger body of literature available on the technical side compared to the environmental side. And we have a great team of 12 junior staff members working on the collection effort. We expect to see these numbers continue to increase as well as we consider active addition of content to be very important to running the site. Now, the table view lists all the documents in Tethys and then narrows it down as the user applies filters and text searching. Right now, the text searching is having a little bit of issues, but it will be there eventually. The columns can also be sorted by clicking, if you click on the title over here, it will bring up more information about the document. For every document has its own page. For all documents, we either upload a PDF attachment if copyright allows, or we link to where the document can be accessed. Sometimes the link that we send you to, it will require payment to access it, such as for journal articles. And we get a lot of comments from people being like, can you make these available? Sadly, there's nothing we can do about copyright law. So we'll send you there, and then you have to subscribe or pay to access it. And that's just how it works. The page also generates a citation down at the bottom, which is helpful when you're putting together references for papers and whatnot. These pages here become archived by search engines and bring a lot of traffic to the site. It's one of the main ways that people enter Tethys engineering and Tethys previously. So we're now going to jump over and explore another view for documents. Up at the top here, if you click on Search Map Viewer, it takes you here. Now this shows a subset of all documents in Tethys, those associated with the geographic location. There are currently over 1,000 documents on the site. This view provides a unique way to explore the content based on location rather than topic areas. If you're familiar with the previous map viewer on Tethys, we've made some significant improvements. This page loads in less than a second and has a very different interface regarding the clustering algorithm. We have to cluster the content because there's so much content there. And so if you hover over a cluster, it'll highlight the bounds, and then when you click on it, it will explode into smaller clusters and icons until you get down to a single icon. You can click that, it brings up some basic info, and then you click on the title, and it takes you to those same document pages. This page will have some filters off to the right eventually. Again, that's one of the in development pieces. I also wanted to quickly show the glossary before moving on. So over here, the glossary is important because it introduces users to topics covered on the site. It also reinforces terminology standards. To that end, we are conforming technology descriptions with standards from the International Electrotechnical Commission. We have also tagged content within the categories of technology, collection method, resource, operations, device, and economics. These terms have been fine-tuned while we've been adding content, so we aren't just making up the terms. When we find new topics that we don't really have coverage, or when we find new papers that aren't really fitting into our categories, sometimes we would consider adding a term. Meanwhile, we found some terms that were duplicative or, didn't quite, just weren't quite being filled, and so we removed a couple that way. So if you click on a term, it takes us to a little bit more information. So we're going to go over here to current. So this is a terminology page, and it provides a more detailed description, an image, that image will be larger, and a table showing all documents tagged with the term. This is incredibly helpful for literature searches related to a given topic. Authors and other tags are also linked, providing a wiki-like feel that allows users to slice the content in different ways. And so moving on from documents, here is some other information available on Tethys Engineering. This is the events calendar, which catalogs MRE events from around the world. Events are sent to us from the community or found by our content team, and these include conferences, workshops, webinars, and more. We usually give a summary of the information and link to the source website. Although, and that's where you'll be able to find registration information or access information. But we do have several events that are unique to Tethys, including some webinars, such as this one. And so there's some unique content there as well. And these events, we're mirroring them in Tethys, and then we're also pushing these events out to Primer. So you'll be able to find them in multiple ways. And that's kind of adding to this whole complete system that we're trying to put together, this complete system of databases. And now for a view that is unique to Tethys Engineering, here we have the photo library. We had requests from the marine renewable energy community to make device photos more available. So we reached out to developers and got back some enthusiastic responses. They were familiar with Tethys, the name of Tethys, and they trusted that as a source to distribute them. At this point, we've had 6 developers send us some very high-quality photos, and they've given permission for the MRE community to freely use them in presentations and publications. This is currently a sample tool, but we intend to build out a more comprehensive tool later this year with a little better interface for adding stuff as we anticipate device photos to come in. Now, some additional tools on the site. This is the organizations page. As documents are added, we also tag author affiliations and sponsoring organizations or those writing reports. This creates a list of organizations who are the most active in the MRE industry based on publication count. And so this view has some basic filters and keyword searches up at the top, but you can see who's being active in the field. Right now it's a lot of universities, and that's because we have there's a lot of journal articles that have been added so far. Now over here we have a databases list. All the primer sites are included in this list, but it also includes many international sites that we've found over the years or have been suggested to Tethys over the years by the community. This is a basic, mostly static list that users find helpful, and you'll find that a lot of these are also mirrored in Tethys. Now up over here, this is the last tool we'll kind of point out. Users with accounts may choose to list themselves on the Tethys Engineering community page. When you have an account, you can, a new feature is that you can actually connect to an author entry in the database, and it will identify how much content you've contributed. And clicking on the name within this list here will bring up more information, including a list of all the documents that that each user has in Tethys Engineering. So this view encourages collaboration among the community, providing contact information to others with similar professional interests. To protect the information, only logged-in users may see this page, preventing bots from gathering the information and spamming you. We don't want any of that. And once again, users may opt into the view as they create their account. So you're not being forced to display stuff here if you choose not to. And so that concludes our walkthrough. But before we go into questions, I want to kind of showcase a couple of new features we're working on. So moving forward, our team will continue to add content. This is important for creating value to the MRE community. We've had a decade of collecting and curating content on Tethys, and that's given us some efficient systems and procedures in place to accomplish this. So we would strongly encourage you to look at the content that's in Tethys Engineering. Let us know if you notice any seminal documents missing. It's always good to have that confirmation from the community. But we will continue moving forward to add content. We also hope to create better linkages with other websites under the Primer umbrella. Regarding links with Tethys, we would like to mirror we plan to mirror some content such as events, although each site will maintain unique documents according to their topic scope. So Tethys being environment and Tethys Engineering being the technical engineering papers. With other primer sites, we also hope to federate content. And this means that at the top of every Tethys page, there's a little area to do a keyword search across the whole site. And the idea is that if you enter a search term up in that search bar, it will return first results from Tethys Engineering, but then in other tabs, you will also get results from sites within Primer. So you could get your Tethys results up there, or MHKDR, or some of these other databases. And so it kind of adds consistency across the site, and they don't all feel as isolated. Now, the other thing is that some of you may be familiar with Tethys Blasts. These are biweekly newsletters distributed to over 1,700 people. We've run this list since 2014, and it covers some announcements up at the top and then highlights new publications and news articles. in several months, we hope to start a Tethys engineering blast as well that will be dedicated to technical MRE topics. There may be some crossover with the water side on Tethys blast, so we're still sorting all of that out. But you can actually even now go and register, actually through Tethys, to add that to Tethys engineering. But you can currently go and register for Tethys engineering, and then you'll receive those as soon as we start it. Finally, we're hoping to create what we call signature projects, probably next year. We will collect all publications related to large DOE-funded research projects, all to live in one place. And these projects will also map to data and information living in other primer sites, overall creating a comprehensive collection of information for key projects. And this may potentially expand to international projects in the future. We also have a couple of workshops next month that we want to invite you to attend. Both workshops will cover the primer project, of which Tethys engineering will be introduced as a component of primer. The first is at UTEC in Napoli, Italy, and the second will be at OREC in Portland, United States. We invite you to register and attend these workshops. So with that, thank you for your time. We hope that Tethys engineering becomes a valuable tool in your MRE adventures, and we'd like to open it up for questions. My colleagues, Lizelle and Haley, will field some of these questions, and you're also at any time welcome to send questions or feedback directly to us at the email listed here.
There is one question here that we are going to start with. Do we need a different user account between Tethys and Tethys engineering?
Yeah, that's a good question. So right now, the two sites are, they do have separate user accounts, so you have a separate account whether it's on Tethys or Tethys engineering, but we do plan to sync that up so that it will be shared between the two sites. And so, we want to make it feel like the sites are very similar to one another, and I think that would be a good way to do it. So
one other question that we have, are the tags final, the tags you show for all the documents?
Yeah, as we have been putting, we spent a lot of time with a larger multi-lab team kind of coming up with some initial tags, and then we also have done some vetting with a steering committee with some experts on the primer side of things. And so we've had a lot of guidance that's gone into this, and then there's been a lot of kind of refining as we've been adding content. So I'd say they're pretty finalized at this point in time. There may be little tweaks and whatnot, but hopefully it's intuitive to people so you can find what you're looking for. And we're definitely, open to any suggestions if you have them, but they're pretty solidified at this point.
We have one more question. What was the motivation behind Tethys engineering?
Yeah, thanks. So Tethys engineering we've had people over the years with Tethys who, they were familiar with Tethys. They have appreciated it for a lot of their research work, and they would always ask, what about the rest of marine renewable energy? Just the environmental stuff was good to cover, but there's a lot of needs for the industry, and we weren't really addressing some of the engineering technical stuff, which has been challenging so far. It's hard to put something in high energy marine environments. So we've had a number of requests over the years, and then with the formation of Primer over the last couple of years, which again was kind of the goal behind that project, was to bring together all the databases on marine renewable energy in the United States and kind of add some cohesiveness and connections between the sites. As part of that, it was recognized that there still was this gap in terms of collecting documents related to the technical engineering side of things. And so we were able to kind of piggyback with this Primer project in order to put together this site. And again, we've done as best as we can, kind of leveraging what we've already done on Tethys, so it's not just starting from scratch. We're kind of using and building off of Things system. And within Primer, it's really nice because we have all these automatic connections in place that will allow it to tie into the rest of the community quite well.
Another question, why do we have two different websites, Tethys and Tethys Engineering?
Yeah, and that's a very good question. A lot of it kind of ultimately comes down to the scopes. You know, Tethys already had this coverage of both MRE and wind, and we were getting the drivers behind creating Tethys Engineering was mostly just coming from the water side, and so we figured there would be a bit of an imbalance if we tried to add that to Tethys. There would be a ton of documents on the MRE side, not as much on the wind side because it would be limited in scope just to environment. And I suppose you could say, well, why don't you add technical for wind? Wind is a huge industry that's been going back, you know, 30, long time, 50 years. There's a lot of literature there, especially on the technical side of things. That would be a very large undertaking. That industry is also much more commercialized at this point and doesn't need as much, you know, help in organizing and kind of promoting it. And so it just made sense to build it as a separate site. We definitely considered combining it all together, but we also didn't want to mess with Tethys. If you keep throwing a bunch of content into the same place, sometimes you water down the impact of that content because, say, if you're looking for something on, you know, a specific environmental effect of marine renewables, you then would see all this technical stuff as well. It's a little less focused. So we figured building it kind of as a parallel site and establishing strong ties between the two was the best approach.
Jonathan, I believe that's all the questions we have.
All right, great. Well, once again, feel free to send any comments in to tethys@pnl.gov. We're happy to answer them. And we do encourage you to go to the site, check it out, explore it, give us feedback on how the site looks, how it functions, and also on how the content looks within the site. Once again, thank you for your time today, and we'll conclude the webinar here. Thank you.